And all right. So I wanted to start a little bit with just some of the bigger picture kind of overview things, and a little bit of terminology and context before we get really down into the deep details of where we're at right now. One of the things that's continually a factor as we talk about groups and group enrollment is that groups in 4HOnline and group enrollments are not the same thing. But there is a relationship in that youth who are enrolled in a group can lead to a group enrollment. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to or that it has to. So the idea here is that spring, or it's that potential energy. It's not guaranteed to go, but it might. And so when you think about groups, and that's a whole different kind of topic, but getting youth in groups, getting adults in groups and in training and all those sorts of things, that's kind of a part of enrollment. That's part of the year. Some of those groups, a lot of those groups, will become group enrollments, but they don't have to be. It's not a one-to-one. In fact, a lot of group enrollments aren't tied to a group in 4HOnline. So just kind of a reminder, refresher of the difference between a group and a group enrollment. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about just real briefly is how all this fits together and how and why we're doing this. So if we look on the, let's see if I can make this kind of, hey, all right. So on the, kind of play here a little bit, on the right-hand side here, this is what we're going for. These are all the things that this data goes to. So the ES-237, that's a federally required report. It's a big deal. It's a consistent report across all states, across all years. Very important to what we do. It's on our website. That's part of what we're going for. There's also the enrollment dashboard, which we'll look at very briefly in just a moment. Regional and stakeholder reports. There's lots of different things, lots of different questions, grant applications, different kinds of things that need numbers come out of this. Research projects. Every so often there's a research project that comes out of the deep and the rich and the wide and the long data that we have. All that data comes from two places. One of those is the individual member enrollments, which right now, for the year that we're reporting on, the year that was completed at the end of October or at the end of September, that's done. So those are done, whatever they are, even though we know there's some situations where we want to make corrections, we can't. 4HOnline has locked that for a number of good reasons. That's done, that's history, that's done. But what we have going right now, or where we're at right now, what we're talking about today is these group enrollments. That is a key part of the data that goes into the end chunk. This is still open. This is our open opportunity to finalize and get our numbers as accurate as we can. And that's where group enrollments come in. Because we're kind of straddling years, it's sometimes less than intuitive to know which year you're working on and which year you're going to look at. When you start because we're talking about reports today, and when you start running reports in 4HOnline, you have to know the year that you're going for. And so that's, I'm seeing a comment that not hearing anything. Is that happening for others? I'll stop for a moment if there's any chat back. Are you able to hear me? Okay, so it looks like it's going through. Lisa, maybe if you want to restart your audio or rejoin the webinar, because it can happen on both ends, and we've all experienced that WebEx can drop the audio on either end. But at this point, it seems like it is going out for most. All right, so when you're working in 4HOnline, when you're working with years, it's important to keep in mind where we're at right now in the process. Because remember, we're dealing with last year. So when we look at years, 2015, the year 2015, which is referred to in 4HOnline as 2014-15, that year is done. That is completely done. Both the enrollment data and the group enrollments are done. Now, the reason that's important is because you can refer back to that year. That's not going to change, so you can see what that was. That's a good benchmark. Now, this year that we're working on is, Get rid of that. This year is what we're working on for group enrollments. So it's the year called 2016. So even though we're in 2016, it's the previous year. So when you look in 4HOnline, it says previous year. What you're referring to is 2015-16 or 2016. And this is where the group enrollments that are in progress. This is what you're working on right now. Now, all that to say, we can also say that we are working on 2017. So the enrollment is happening right now. Enrollment and re-enrollment, that's going on. That's very active right now. That's going to be in process through the winter, spring, summer, into next early fall. And the group enrollments can also be in progress for next year. So just kind of keeping in mind, keeping that straight, the dividing line is October 1. The only exception I'm aware of is the fall volunteer training. If you've got a fall volunteer training that was before October 1, but was for this fall's training, that kind of gets moved over into the next year, the 2017 year. All right, so any questions about any of this part of it, keeping track of the years, running the reports? All right, so the other thing to kind of keep in mind, the big picture, other piece to be aware of as you're dealing with group enrollments, remembering that both kinds of data, both the enrollment data and the group enrollment data flow into this. This is kind of one of the key pieces. So the delivery method, delivery mode, is what gets the numbers on the report. And so delivery modes are attached to clubs, which is part of the enrollment, and delivery methods are attached to group enrollments. Now, where that becomes important is knowing what these delivery methods are. These are kind of the big buckets that become very important. So if we look at the top here, these three areas get totaled together, and actually there's a fourth area over here, the military clubs, which are not relevant in Minnesota. So we've got these three areas here, the three club delivery methods. Now, clubs, community clubs, and the enrollment data, that's pretty straightforward. Most all of those are club delivery methods, and those numbers all flow through. But for group enrollments, the club delivery method, so when you start looking at your data, the club delivery method is what we consider probably most important. It's a number that's looked at a lot. When we say how many 4-H club members we have in Minnesota, we're talking about the number of youth who are in a club, they're enrolled in a club, along with, added to, when we give the number, it includes a number of group enrollments that also include the club delivery method. So when you're doing group enrollments, be thinking about that. Does this activity that I'm reporting on, is that a club? Does it have a club experience? And the documentation we'll look at in just a moment talks about how to decide that. But just be very mindful that that club number, those three delivery modes, are very important to get right and to be very thoughtful about, because that is a number that is looked at very importantly. It's a number that goes to the dean. It's a number that's spread very far and wide. So those delivery modes kind of get a little more attention. All right, so then the next one, the next delivery mode we're going to look at here is this special interest. This is where almost everything else goes, is under special interest. It's a very large bucket. It's very broad. You feel like you're putting everything into that, or most everything into that. That's right. That's pretty much how it works. The other, as we just kind of look at these, there are other smaller. So camping is broken down to, for whatever reason, it's broken down into overnight and day camping. This is environmental camping. This is not like a project day camp or a Cloverbud day camp, even though we use the word day camp. These are about environmental camp. So it's a day-long camping program, but it's in the woods, or it's by a lake, it's with cabins, it's environmental wildlife topics. It's that kind of environmental kind of camp that we think of as summer camp most often here in Minnesota. And then these last ones down here, these are individual ones. They don't get subtotal. Those are smaller, but they're also important to kind of be aware of and get the numbers in there. Less important than the club numbers, but just know that those are there. By the way, this is one to watch a little bit. This used to be instructional TV and video. It also now includes the web or the online learning, and so we'll see that number grow over time. All right, any questions about that big stuff? All right, so now we're going to get into it just a little bit more here. All right, so we're going to the intranet. On the intranet, there is the program evaluation and research link. We click on that, we see 4-H data collection. That's where we're headed. Click on 4-H data collection. All right, so here is the 4-H data and a lot of things related to that. So this top link is to the Minnesota 4-H dashboard, and that takes you to a very cool tool that if you've not looked at it, the enrollment data interface, slowly this is getting rolled out. Spend some time here. We're not going to spend any time on it today, but just know that the data that you're entering goes into that, and so know that that's important, and watch for more information. Big deal, great stuff. Then there's other information, historical data, that all kind of flows. All right, the next section here is instructions, and we're going to only look a little bit at this, but this is how you do group enrollments, and there are these are slightly updated every so often. This is where you can find about clubs. Does it qualify as a club? Should it be reported as a club? How do I report this, that, or the other thing? These are all in here under the instructions. Then the webinars. And then I'm going to start down here, and then we'll go back up to the instructions. So under tools and reports, there are, at the top here is where we're going to kind of focus, is this group enrollment. So if nothing else, you can go in here and see how you're looking at. So we wanted to, how you're looking in terms of group enrollments. Today is about comparing and seeing where you're at. So these group enrollments from 2014-15. So if you remember when we looked at the years, 2014-15, it's the year 2015. It's the year that's been completed at this point. And so if you open this up, it's a big, long PDF. It's got every county. It is, how many pages? 195 pages long. A lot of data here. You can just run this. This is what you've done, again, in 2015. And so you can see what group enrollments were in there for your county then, the numbers, you can compare it, kind of see, if you're forgetting something, those sorts of things. So for at the end of every county, so if we look here, so Brown County, we've got totals of 305, 214, and 298. Now these are the important numbers, or the numbers that we kind of pay the most attention to. And so, can I zoom in here? I can. These are a little bit tricky to kind of think about. So we'll start over here, the member gender count, no duplicates. This is the unduplicated or the unique, the new members that we're reaching with this group enrollment. And a lot of times for your 4-H events, that's going to be 0 because they're all enrolled kids that are participating. And that's what we want. We want all the kids who are participating to be enrolled. And so it's okay and normal to have a lot of zeros there. But when there's other, when there are new kids, and that's especially true for club kinds of group enrollments, and when you're working with a collaborating partner and all those other things that we've talked about over time, it's really important that that number get in there. When you put that number into the group enrollment, you're going to put in male and female, and fortunately, our reporting will combine them. So it does the gender count, it combines male and female and gives you this number. So here we've got 16. That is, if you dig deeper, broken between male and female. Now, it would be great if the other number, the duplicates, we could also have a field that would combine the male and the female. It's not available, so that's the unfortunate side of this. But it's 2 fields, and most of us can add 2 numbers with a little bit of help, maybe a calculator. And so this is where the male and the female. So unfortunately, you've got 3 numbers to deal with. 2 you have to combine. 1 is a straight up total number. So if we look here, there were 305 females, 214 males. Again, this is Brown County. Those are duplicates. That's the total number of participants, an important number. And then the next number is 298, and these are the no duplicates. Those are the new kids. So just kind of be aware and be looking at those numbers. Are they making sense? Comparing from this year to last year. Program hours is a number we really like. It's less important. Don't sweat it a whole lot if you're not sure or you're kind of guessing. But this other data, and we've talked about this in other webinars, when you enter the number of times something meets, you put that in under the program description, program hours, those sorts of things. But it's really these numbers here that counting the kids that's going to be important as you start comparing data. All right, so this is the and you can't look at, unfortunately, you can't look at this number. Look here in the title. or look at the link name. So this is the 2014-15 program year. All right, so what good does that do you? So you see how you're doing. And so every so often I put up a new report, and then I'm going to show you how you can run your own report as of the day. But there is, so if we look here, just for kind of the thing we're going to do at the state level, you can do for your county level. If you look at the very, very end, we'll see that we had 42,805 new youth. So that was in 2015. And then if we look at as of October, we'll go to that same number. We had, if you can see that, as of October, we had 13,257 new youth, new participating. Now, as of this morning, if we look at this number and we go to the very end, we are at, go away, come here, we're at 34,000. So it kind of shows you how that number keeps growing, and that's the statewide combined number. As you're working at your county, you're going to also want to check those numbers. All right, so that's the prepared available reports under tools and reports. You can look at those and see how you're coming, compare your counties, look at this year and last year, and do all that comparing. All right, so let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions. Again, anytime, unmute yourself, pop in with a question, and we'll go. All right, so I'm going to close that. All right, so up here under instructions, so we're still on the 4-H data collection page of the YD intranet. Under here, under instructions, there's this 4HOnline user guide for groups, trainings, and group enrollments, this whole big pile of stuff that we're talking about. All right, so in this guide, which is 17 pages long, if you scroll down to this section, so we are now on page 13, and there's a section called Reviewing Entered Group Enrollments. So what this is talking about is how you can quickly see what you've got entered for group enrollment. So if we go over here, and I just happen to be in Anoka County, so this is the county view. Group enrollments only exist at the county level, so that means that regional and state staff need to log into a specific county to see the data at this level. Clicking on group enrollment, this is where you're adding the group enrollments, this is where you're editing the group enrollments, and so it's probably obvious, and but just so you know that this is a very quick way to check your group enrollments. This is where that year thing can get kind of confusing. So if you look at the current 4-H year, you might be thinking, yeah, I'm currently working on group enrollments, but that current year is now the 2017 year. If you want to see the group enrollments from last year, the ones you're working on, that would be previous, or maybe it's easier to go to the actual years. So the current year is also listed down here as 2016-17. Previous is listed down here as 2015-16. Click on search, and you'll see that in Anoka County in 2015-16, they have 113 records, 113 group enrollments. Now that's the number of group enrollments. It's not the number of kids or the number of volunteers. It is the number of group enrollments that have been entered. And this includes group enrollments that have been entered for regional events and state events. They're all in here. They all happen at the county level. Now, if you switch this to the previous year and go to 2014-15, remember that's the year that is done, complete, no more changes. You'll see that there was 111 records. So at least in terms of the number of group enrollments, Anoka County is pretty on track with the number of group enrollments. The only other thing here on this screen to be, well, you can do an Excel export, which isn't terribly helpful, but you can do that. The other thing is that you can do sorting on this list screen, like any of the list result screens in 4HOnline. You can sort by any of these columns. So sorting by delivery mode will let you be able to find, a little bit easier, what's going on, or, if you're looking to see how many club things have I entered. Unfortunately, you cannot filter on delivery mode. That'd be really helpful on the screen, but at this point, you can't do that. All right, so that's the quick and easy way. The more difficult but much more powerful way is to go into reports. And this is how you would run the reports that we saw. Let's see. I guess we haven't still got it up here. But this is how you would run these reports. So this report is what we're going to do next. So in 4HOnline, you click on reports. Now, most of us, when you go to reports, you're working in the enrollment report. So there's two tabs here, enrollment reports, is where you do all your report stuff. There's another tab here called manager reports. And this is where you get to the other kinds of reports. This is the reports that don't talk about kids or volunteers. It's reports about other stuff that's other than the youth and adult records. All right, so just like the other reports under shared, you're going to find some shared reports. You're going to see anything that has been created in your county under manager reports, anything that's been created in your region under manager reports. Manager reports cover group enrollments, but they cover a lot of other things as well. All right, so under group enrollment, under state group enrollment reports, summary data, memorize and check custom filters. So one of the things that's kind of tricky is that the manager reports tab doesn't have a year. So if you go on enrollment reports, you see how you've got this year thing. It's great, it's handy. Manager reports, because of the nature of the data, doesn't have that. So you need to do the hard work of filtering out for the year on your own. All right, so this is the report that's there. And by the way, just to keep the sense of context. So we talked about reviewing intergroup enrollments. This is back on the instruction, the user guide for 4HOnline and groups. If you scroll down to page 14, it talks about printing group enrollments. This is where you'll find the instructions for that. I skipped so we're going to talk about that. But then this is what we're going to be talking about right here. So the thing I didn't say is that under quick exports, there is a group enrollment by county quick filter. And so this is a quick way to do a report of all your group enrollments. It's a huge file. To me, it's kind of bulky and unworkable, but it might be something that you want to use up here. It gives you all the fields. It's a quick pre-formatted export Excel file. But more commonly, I think going to be more helpful is this report right here. And that is what is referred to the instructions here. And so we're going to memorize that report, which is really a copy. And we're going to call it group enrollment. And this is the Anoka County that we're in. And so you copy the report. And what that does, just like your regular reports, it puts it into your custom folder. To, again, keep track of where we're at, we're going to click on reports. And whenever you click on reports, you land back on enrollment reports, but go to manager reports. Now we have our custom report for group enrollments that we just copied, now shows up under custom reports for this is Betsy's profile. It would show up under each person's profile. All right, so like your regular reports, to really do anything, you want to go into edit report. And the fields here are pretty standard. You're probably not going to mess with that a whole lot, but you can. There's some kind of cool stuff if you want to get more detailed. There's lots of fields there you can work on. Where we really want to go, if you remember, the title of this thing said, memorize and check custom filter before running. All right, so we're going to go to the custom filters, which are found under data and format options. And right now we've got the 4H year range equal to 2015-16. So you can change this filter to a different year if you want. That's how you get the different years on the reports. If you wanted to, and you'll find the fields that you're looking for are under program, you can also do a specific delivery mode equal to the club program, which is here. So if you want to do that, you can. I'm not going to for this. All right. Whoa. Sorry about that. Not sure what I clicked. So we're going back to Manager Reports, this report, Edit. And we're under Data and Format Options. And the filter is pointing to 2015-16, which is the 2016 year. That's what we're working on. Down here, for some reason, it doesn't carry over. One of the things that you can do is you can sum up the numbers, you can get the totals, which is pretty handy. When you copy the report, it doesn't copy those sum settings, but they're pretty easy to do. And I usually do it landscape, but again, with your regular report skills and functions, you can do those kinds of things. All right, so like a regular report, a good way to start is to go to grid view. Kind of tells us here's our 113 records that we saw, but it also gives us the data, more data than what we see on the group enrollment listing screen. But where it gets really helpful is if you click on View Report, and then you'll be able to see the details. So what is the name of each of these group enrollments? What's the name of the program? The number of kids. Remember the, and here it's flipped around unfortunately, but the male duplicates and the female duplicates, that's the number you have to kind of manually put together. The new kids, the no duplicates, that's an already combined number. And then you'll see the delivery mode and the program hours, all that kind of cool stuff. So the other thing you can do that didn't carry over, so it groups it by county. You're going to probably want to group it probably by delivery mode. Counting the records isn't real helpful because when you count the records, it's the number of group enrollments, which is a pretty rough number when you're starting to look at this data. You really need the data in each of the group enrollments. So this gives you a pretty decent report. So this is the day camping, overnight camping, and the school enrichment, and on down it gives you some nice totals, subtotals, all those kinds of things that you can start playing with this report so that you can review what's entered, how it's looking, any questions about you know, that if you see something really missing from previous years or a big change in the numbers, this is how you can dig down into seeing what it is. All right, so that is where we're at. Any questions before we go? Deadline's coming up in December, and as I've hopefully said often enough, that to reduce the stress and increase the depth of reporting. The deadline is there, but it is somewhat flexible, so if you need more time, we'd much rather have that deadline extended for a county and getting all the data in there. Looking at the gross statewide numbers, and I did some other looking at those numbers earlier that we didn't have time to look at here, and we're getting close. We're getting very close to where it looks like we should be. So that's good. It's a ton of work. Appreciate it. If ever any questions, contact your coworkers, regional offices, contact myself, and we'll get it figured out. All right, I think that's it. Any other questions? I'll hang around and chat for a while. Otherwise, I think we're done. Have a good rest of the day, a good week.